Hello again, and welcome to Modern American Gangsters, Episode 3 Behind the Desk. On this episode, we're going to be talking about rounding out the series of what really happened, finishing up the documentary, finishing up the book, all this stuff, and moving forward into a new project, which is my secret societies, fraternal orders, and control groups. So, I'm moving past this, my second book, or technically this is like the third book, but the what really happened, I want to get past that and move into my secret societies video that is going to be released sometime soon, I'm hoping. I still have to record it. I've got all the parts done. I ran into some problems with my truck I was working on, if everybody remembers that. I had to tear it all apart again and put it back together, but it seems to be fixed now. So then I'm going to be shifting gears. I wanted to wrap this up. I wanted to do a final behind the desk show and kind of a deep dive into what really happened. So I wish I had some questions, but I have some questions. Some people wanted to know, how did you figure all this stuff out? Because this information, when you hear it for the first time, is like completely mind blowing. And it's not something you can just watch a 2 hour documentary and go, oh, okay, I know all about this stuff. Now, this is a door opening, perception changing, consciousness expanding bit of information, because there's so many things within this what really happened series that you have to wrap your mind around for any of what you see today for it to make sense. Now, how did you come up with all this information? How did you do this? Well, when you're arguing with people on the internet and family members and all these people who just believe 100% whatever the TV says or whatever the official version is, whatever the general consensus is, you have to be able to really know your shit if you're going to try to help these people. And from doing this for so long, you can figure out who really is interested in this and who does not want to hear this at all. And it's the same people who they just have another question. They have another question. They have another question. And they don't really listen to your answers. So, in order to understand this mud flood, you have to understand the concepts of flat earth. Because there's no possible way this mud flood can occur on a ball. It's impossible. Because the water rose and drained, leaving the sediment, which is the mud flood. And that's why all the buildings are buried at the exact same depth everywhere. That is a big thing. So, before I started writing this, my first book, which is the Great Awakening book, it was, people want you to prove it. Prove it to me that this mud flood happened and all this stuff. So, you can't prove it to somebody in 144 characters on Twitter. It's impossible. It's impossible. You cannot prove it to somebody in a little blurb. Okay? Their version of the truth. I should have brought in my. I have a history book from high school. You go through an entire years and years of indoctrination to believe the official version of their story. Okay? So to unbelieve all that, you think there would be a magical tweet that I could do that people would go, oh, okay, all of reality is fake and everything's, oh, okay, let's move on to this golden age of prosperity. It's the programming. People have to be reprogrammed. And that is not just an overnight thing that you can do with a tweet or an Instagram post or something where people want to go, aha, well, if dinosaur bones were real, then what about the whatever it is? It's completely fake. Dinosaurs are fake. It's all fake, people. And that's what you have to realize is they don't fake two or three things. because all this other stuff is real, and it just, well, we couldn't figure it out. If that were the case, they would be open about, we don't really know. If a giant skeleton was found today, the scientific community would welcome it because science is about questioning things. Well, after all this COVID shit, they're not into questioning things at all. They want you to shut the fuck up, go to work, pay your taxes, get their vaccines, do what you're told, and then live your life and die and be homeless. I mean, they don't give a fuck about people at all. And we want to believe that these people who are so for helping the people with vaccines and stuff, and then they're going to ban cigarettes because they also they care about people's health. They don't care about your health. If they did, there wouldn't be homeless fucking people. They wouldn't be pushing these vaccines. You know, they're killers. The people in charge are killers. They're genocidal lunatics. So you first have to know their version of history really well to get into their lies. So that was going through the first book and figuring out, getting all of their story in a timeline of historical events, bullet points. That's what's in the first book, what the first Great Awakening, which is like a summary of everything. Okay, this is the what really happened is more of a specialized look at the events after this mud flood or event, or the repopulating or whatever. This is getting into the story that they're telling us versus all this information that proves they're lying. Okay, the brick buildings, the all this stuff. So how did you come up with this? I first went through all of known history and known accounting and got the bullet points of all this stuff. Okay, then I kept going and found all this other stuff. I was really into mud fossils back then, and the mud fossils explain everything. Like, if you can really grasp the concepts of the mud fossils, you'll be able to. It expands your mind to the point where a lot more is possible. If there's giant, Titan-sized, mile-tall creatures walking around, they can't be walking around on a globe, space, flying through space. Okay, they'd be too big. If you're aware of this, the concepts of like the giant dragon and the giant dragons and stuff that are across an entire continent, that would mean that there's way more earth and land, and then you start to get into the ideas of like the Gulliver's Travel is like a real thing. And in one land, Gulliver is a Titan-sized being walking around. Then later he crash lands, and now he's a little person, and everyone else is Titan giant sized. That's how you really understand this. These concepts of what really happened is maybe there was a nuclear war between the super giants or something. You have to understand the concepts to get any of this, is my point. And then you can figure out and try to figure out what happened is some event happened which caused a reverting of civilization and a lost time. The lost kingdom of Christ. What something was removed and a new thing was put into place. And that's the official NPC version of reality that we have. So when you know that, now you have to figure out how much has been hidden. Once you have to take all the mythology and all this stuff and put it back together, and you kind of understand that these people have added time into our timeline to push the past back thousands and thousands of years. And the Big Bang billions and millions of gajillions of years ago when the mountains were formed. Well, if the mountains are all made out of giant fossilized trees and giant fossilized people, then it could have been an instantaneous thing where all the mountains were created at the same time at a certain level, if that kind of makes sense to people. So as I'm going through this research, as I'm putting this all together, it's like the amount of information I have accumulated is just a massive amount of pictures, memes, information, hard drives of information. I had to get a new computer. My computer fills up, and now I've got this super amount of knowledge, and it's like I got to get it out to the people. So this is where I start doing my channel, making my videos on the basics. And you go now; it's a popular thing. This old world in the mud flood, but this wasn't popular 5 years ago. So everyone thinks you're a complete fucking lunatic for questioning anything. Where now it's like you make a TikTok video about, do you think the trees were once people? Or what about Giant? Tucker Carlson has clips of him talking, and Joe Rogan will have a clip, and all these people have these clips talking about this stuff when they are completely just trying to control how much information we discover. And that's why it's so important to have this in a paperback form, that you could order these copies, you could have this, you could technically you could download the PDF on my Patreon if you subscribe for $9.99 a month. You can also get the PDF of the first book and print it out yourself. I don't fucking care. Don't sell it to make money, but if you want to print out copies, I don't give a fuck. Get this information out and keep it to the side, because they totally want to do another great reset again. And another thing is, if you're a time traveler, this is why I think this is so important. If you're a time traveler in the future and you know this book exists, giving you the bullet point timeline of things, you could use that like the sports almanac to go back in time and affect things in the future. That is another reason why I think they're censoring this so much, is because people today, if you don't have your cell phone, they don't know anything. And nothing is specialized written down. Where if you go back into time, into 1955, the cell phone isn't going to work. So you're not going to be able to look up anything. There's no towers. There's no internet. Okay? You would need a physical copy of something to use as your guide for the future, because average people don't know what day a song came out. But if you have specific markers in there, like it's more into, I'm trying to talk about the second book, but the fucking first book is awesome because I put in cultural things too that you could use as markers, like the first WrestleMania, the first like Daytona 500, things like that. Where if you didn't know, you could bet all your money on specific things. I don't go into who won every fucking Super Bowl, but it's a very interesting thing. And another reason why they're doing something with this timeline, and it's like the future's not set, because changing specific temporal events now really affect things down the road. Whether it's the butterfly effect, this thing was in the wrong position, and all these things happen, like the Marty McFly, George McFly has to kiss Elaine at the thing, and under the sea Chapman under the sea dance. If they don't fall in love, they don't kiss, and then he doesn't be born. This you never know what that enchantment under the sea dance is a temporal event. There was 500 other dances, but this one event causes all these altered things. That is a very important thing, and that's why I think this research is so important, and why they are trying to keep people from all of this information that we have uncovered. So we'll be right back after this. I hope you enjoy. It's the same deception, the same lies, and the same, they tell you what's going on here, and all this other stuff is going on under the table, under the curtain, under, behind the wall in the speakeasy or whatever. Now, it's a big thing that all these people who went to college, they all have learned one version of history, one version of every story. There's never a, well, some people think this and some people think that. It's just, here is what we're telling you happened. And you write down what we tell you happened as if it is the word of some god or some prophet. And then you go into proving that they're lying, which is super easy to do, and prove that, well, something else is going on here, and now you've been blacklisted by these controller type people. So, doing this research, I had a falling out with some family members, like we all have now had over the past 10 years of Trump and vaccines and all this stuff. And all these people go to college, and they're so much smarter than you. Everyone looks down on you because they went to college and they've got a degree and all this stuff. When these people can't conceptualize or argue any of this stuff. And then, it's easy on the internet when you're arguing with people and then they say, well, prove it. And it's like, well, you're on Twitter. I can't prove to you 200 years of deception in a little 144 character tweet. Okay, so these people who will tell you to prove it and prove it and prove it and prove it, then you go, okay, I'll fucking prove it to you. Then I come up and I write this first book. I put all this information together and I have proven it. It's written down. If you want to argue this in court, it's right there. Do it. There's no way you can disprove anything in here because it's the truth of what's going on. And it takes some kind of, it's like people have so much faith in the government and the school system. You need to have faith in yourself and faith in God if you're going to get out of this completely controlled world that we live in. So, starting this research, I started compiling all of this information. This is like one of my oldest things I did, was starting to compile and summarizing what is going on within the story we were told. Okay, so I started doing that. This was back in like 2020 I started this, which to me doesn't seem like that long ago, but that was like 6 years ago. So I was already deep into all these conspiracy theories, and I was starting to get kind of a lot of following on Instagram and stuff. And then the vaccines and all that stuff, and they wiped out all my accounts and deleted them. So then it was like, well, starting over, I'm not going to just waste time on the social media. And all these people are telling me, oh, you should write a book. You should write all this down. So I compile all this information into these notes on binder paper and put it into this book of what's going on. How does all this tie together to the point where, people are going to disown you if you don't get a fucking COVID vaccine? And their vaccine won't work if you don't get yours. And it's just like the lack of thinking. If you have a vaccine to save you from whatever, it shouldn't matter whether I get it or not. You're protected, right? Well, the only people who get COVID 9 times and have long COVID and are dying are these dumb people who get these vaccines, who all went to college and all believe the same version of reality. Whatever they say on the fucking TV is their, they believe that over anything you're going to say. The same thing with the vaccines or anything like that. The CNN and Fox News say it's good. And if they're Democrats versus Republicans and they're agreeing, then it's got to be true. When you don't understand that the same controller people own all of the media and their response is uniformed to everything else. Okay, they all believe the same stuff and they all push the same agendas. CNN pushes globe, earth, moon shit, and so does Fox News, and so does PBS, and so do all these people. They all told you the vaccines were safe and effective, which we know they're not, and all these people are dying. And when you bring that up to people, they still aren't going to agree with you. They're still going to fight it to the very end. And that's their free will choice. But I put all this information together, and people think I'm crazy for trying to prove that World War One wasn't about geopolitical problems in Germany and all. It's such a fake thing when no amount of 20 million people dying is worth any kind of bullshit they sold you on. But the war gets going and they can't stop it, and there's no getting rid of the war and all this stuff. So it's all bullshit at the end of the day. And knowing that it's bullshit, knowing that the conspiracy person knows all this stuff and they'll tell it, but they can't. I don't see a lot of the conspiracy people really pushing forward with this new version of reality. We have to put all these theories together into one cohesive theory that explains everything. It explains what really happened. What were these wars about? Why are there always wars? We can't go 10 years without a massive fucking war going on, killing people for oil or resources and all this stuff. When you look back in time, and it seems like none of this stuff existed because there was plenty of everything to go around. When you start looking into the old world with the free power and the transportation systems and all this stuff. So getting this information, writing it down, having something to refer to, and then moving into who are these controllers? Well, back in the day, it was lizard people, and everyone, told everyone about lizard people. And I was like, dude, it's lizard people. It's proven. We can prove it right here. And everyone just kind of goes, oh, yeah. But they never want to have it be proven to them. Because once it is proven to them, now it's in their hands. Okay? Now it's their free will choice to accept it and protect themselves, protect their families, or to just blindly accept every single thing you're told. And if they say get a vaccine, you're going to get a vaccine. If they say go get microchipped, you're going to go get microchipped. If it says turn in your neighbors because they're anti-Semitic, you're going to turn in your neighbors because they're anti-Semitic.
But I warn you, if you make any further inquiries, or if you say a single word to anyone about what you have seen, there will be the most dire consequences for you and your family. Do you understand?
And that was the trailer for Secret Societies. So a ton of information is coming everyone's way. I'm going to break it into segments. So, you know, I might do each individual secret societies and then skip some for the full length version, but just focus on the main ones of the Freemasons and all this stuff. So that's coming very soon. When I sit down to record it, I'll get it all done in a day or two and then edit it. So it'll only take me 3 or 4 days once I start recording it. Um, I had to work with my truck and deal with that, but I got that working. Like, I mean, it runs like it's brand new now. I'll I'll show you guys next week on news and current events once I got it all fixed up. So I got another best of volume 8 coming. I'm going to have a lot more clips to Modern American Gangster clips coming. I got to call Mr. Saccavello and talk with him about a few things. I want to record some new gaming segments that I think are going to be a lot of fun. I want to kind of use the zombie game as like a role playing thing, and that might be kind of a fun thing. So I wanted to do Mr. Saccavello wanted to do a cooking segment in the zombie game. So there's a lot of fun ideas coming. I just got to kind of get this broken truck problem behind me and this next documentary behind me, and then I can shift gears into some other stuff. I got my garden underway. The plants are looking good so far. So maybe I did want to. It's like there's so much I wanted to do, but the time is just ticking away faster and faster and faster. So that's this week of Behind the Desk. I did want to focus on a Behind the Desk about the Alien movies. Maybe that will still come. Maybe I'll talk about that again on news and current events. Uh, but we got a lot more on the way. So thank you for watching. I will see you guys next time. And good night, good evening, and good luck, everybody. What really happened 1865 to 1925, the lost story of our realm, resets, revolution, and the reimagination of reality. What really happened is based on the two-part documentary series that came out over the summer and now is in print form. Over 600 pages of research, pictures, and information that you will want to add to your collection today. This book or collected research will attempt to re educate you into the ideas of alternate theories surrounding our past, mainly focusing on what really happened. We will examine the evidence and ideas connecting to our story backed by fact. If we look to our past as a timeline of historical events, we see discrepancies surrounding many things: the architecture, the people, the inventions, and the technology. When we look to the past, we see remnants of a lost, highly advanced civilization that we were never told about, mainly surrounding Tartary or Tartaria and the Old World. Architecture of the Old World, giants of the Old World, mystery of the giant trees, the mud flood and the great fires, Old World high technology. When you see the world differently, everything changes. What really happened? Available now on lulu.com. Order today so that you are ensured that your copy comes before Christmas time and you can arm yourself with the greatest weapon of all: information.